Welcome to Gekisai Bagwork number 1. So in this video, we're going to do the actual drills that I've created for Gekisai kata on a heavy bag. Again, I want to emphasize that if you don't have the requisite skills to move around and pivot around a heavy bag, go back to my intro video and pick those up, or find a video on boxing or kickboxing footwork and get comfortable first with just the ability to move around the bag while constantly hitting it, because that's kind of a prerequisite, I think, to do these drills in a way where you're going to gain something out of them. Other than that, of course, I suggest that you have familiarity with Gekisai, probably beyond just familiarity. The more you've done the kata, the more it's going to make sense to your body. And then the only other thing I want to say before we start is it's important to have the right idea conceptually about what you're trying to do with bag work. You're not trying to repeat a set of something or a pattern. A pattern is just useful for you to begin improvising with. The goal of this is for you to move around and fight as close as you would in an actual self-defense situation, and apply your stuff on the bag without needing to go, oh, now I do this, now I do this. You want to internalize it. So don't try to enter into this like you would with kata or some sort of prearranged thing, because even though there's a pattern to it, the point is to kind of move beyond the pattern once you get comfortable with it. All right? So we'll get into it now. Thank you very much. Gekisai Bagwork number 1. Let's get into it. So, first sequence, first 3 moves of Gekisai kata, right? 1, 2, 3. You've probably done it a million times. First thing we're going to work on is a long range drill that covers the first 2 movements, a jodan-uki and an oizuki, upper block, and a lunge punch. So, first thing to understand here, what you're going to work on is kind of a closing distance thing where you're going to pivot and do your jodan-uki flinch reaction. And the important thing about this flinch reaction is that every time I do it, my buttons are covered and I'm driving in with that forearm, following with a punch. It doesn't really matter if you do oizuki or gyakuzuki, lunge punch or reverse punch. That's just determined by your distance to the bag. And when we do bag work, we're not trying to reproduce the same thing every time. We're trying to have some spontaneity and some kind of dynamics to what we're doing. So just throw whatever kind of punch you need based on your distance, and don't worry too much about whether it's exactly like the kata. The elements that we want are pivot, flinch reaction, strike, and then I'm going to back out and I'm going to repeat it basically. And while I'm doing this, you're going to notice that sometimes I drop my hands before I do the flinch reaction. I'm not doing that because I think it's a good idea to drop your hands. I'm doing that so that I can practice my flinch reaction from a semi-natural position. I'm also going to practice this from movement. So I'm not going to stand still and do it. I'm going to be either shuffling, walking, as I punch and move, or whatever. So that's going to be our first drill. All right, thank you. Okay, drill number 1. I'm going to start kind of slowly, and hopefully it'll be clear what I'm doing. As time goes on, I'll increase my speed a little bit, and I'll also throw in another angle so you can see it. All right. I'm going to get a little bit closer, use my grabbing belt. Drill number 2 is I do the same thing I did with number 1, except now when I'm close to the bag, I'm going to add in a close range Jodan-uki, which functions both as a forearm strike to the neck and as a way to control the center line as I move around my opponent, right? So what this will do for the drill as you add part 2 is it'll be much easier for you to kind of negotiate the range in and out without having to reset and then go at this long distance. So I will probably do a little bit less long distance stuff since I'm adding in part 2 now, okay? Again, I'm gonna go kind of slow so that hopefully some of the details are visible. Drill number 3, final drill for this video, and of course that's covering this motion, right? So there's a lot of good applications for this motion. If you do Goju-Ryu particularly, you know that this motion is ubiquitous and you can do all kinds of things with it that are pretty effective. The thing is that a lot of things you can do that are pretty effective don't really lend themselves to bag work. So I'm not going to do those. I've tried out things where you attach an arm to the bag and you try, an arm bar and a strike to the jaw and things like that. They're fun to do. I personally don't feel like there was any real skill development from practicing them in that way. So what I'm going to propose is a very simple way of utilizing this motion that, I'm not saying it's the most effective application for it. What I am saying is it's a good way to use it on a heavy bag where you will actually build a functional skill rather than something that has so many working parts that it's going to just slow down your bag work. So basically what I'm going to recommend that you do for this third motion is on drill 2, we would come in, do our stuff, and we would throw a close range Jodan-uki, and that would sort of help us reset and gauge our position to our opponent, etc. In this case, rather than throwing a Jodan-uki, you're going to extend it all the way and you're going to open up like you do in Gekisai before you return with a punch. So the idea there is I've done all this stuff and I'm at close range, and here's somebody's head and their body's probably going to move that way with our relative positioning. And as their body moves that way, I'm going to frame off their head with this hand, and then their head is exactly where I want the target to be. Okay? That's the idea behind this. Again, maybe not the most ideal use of it, but it is functional on a heavy bag. Okay? So again, I'm going to go hopefully a comfortable speed that you can tell what I'm doing on the heavy bag. So to review, drill number 1, long distance. Okay? I add in drill number 2 on top of it. I've got my long distance, short range Jodan-uki typically as a strike or a way to control the center line, throwing punches the whole time. The third is I extend this motion and I kind of open up and pivot back for the punch. Very similar to the first move in Naihachi, okay? So those are the 3 elements to this. What you want to do is combine them at a level you're comfortable doing them competently, and then you can raise intensity and things like that. All right, thank you.